open packs, pick your team, and crush the competition. This is next level fantasy football. It's free to play. There's £125,000 up for grabs. Download the app today at ultimatefan.com.
Hello and welcome back to the Ultimate Fan Fix, episode 6. Joining me and my colleague Tom Pearce is the English ambassador for the Euro 2020 competition, Rory Jennings. Rory, good to have you back. How's things?
Not great to be honest. I'm still scarred. I'm still in sheer pain from what happened Friday night at Wembley. Do you know how many times I've been told to get it up you? Do you know how many times that has been said to me on social media? Honestly, I think it's in the hundreds of thousands. Get it up you has been said constantly. The amount of times that people have been sending me lyrics from, I don't know, sing it. Yes, sir, I can boogie. I mean, I've had to eat a lot of humble pie over the past 48 hours. It's been terrible, and not necessarily my enthusiasm, but my belief in England this tournament has really taken a hit after that performance at Wembley.
Is that mainly down to? I was going to say that mainly down to the comments about the we should be aiming for 6 or 7. Is it relevant to that?
Yeah. That certainly didn't do me any favours. I'm going to have to be slightly more cautious with my predictions in the future. But that clip, somebody put an edit together. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's me saying that if we play Scotland, we're looking to score 6 or 7. And then they've juxtaposed that clip with a clip of Kevin Bridges, Glaswegian comedian. I was on the Times radio this morning because of that clip. It's gone everywhere. Do you know what? There's this Scottish account I really like. It's one of my favourite Instagram accounts called Scottish Patter, which I've followed for 5 years. Right, I'm scrolling through and trying to just detract from the football. I'm on it. I was on the account that is one of my favourite mocking accounts on social media. I've seen my own face on that account. I was like, it's time to turn the phone off, isn't it? I need to go to hibernation for about 6 weeks.
It was a bit of a tepid performance, weren't it? On Friday. What were your immediate thoughts after the game?
I thought we were abysmal. I thought we were utterly abysmal. I think Gareth Southgate got it so wrong and should hang his head in shame. I think certain individual players were shown up. I don't want to take anything away from Scotland. I thought they were very good, but everything that you assumed would happen. I don't know how everybody decided to convince themselves after one fairly decent 90-minute performance that Calvin Phillips was a wonderful international footballer. He's not. He's obviously not that. You know how Billy Gilmore's been struck down with COVID? Calvin Phillips doesn't need to worry. You didn't get within 10 yards of him all game, right? Calvin Phillips, absolutely fine. The fact that Calvin Phillips had a fairly decent game against Croatia, who have such a non-confrontational midfield. They have a midfield that is passive. And as soon as Calvin Phillips has come up against a combative, aggressive midfield, he's been done. He's been shown up to be the average football player that he is. And I think that Gareth Southgate needs to take a lot of this flack. I think he's shown up by Steve Clarke. Steve Clarke isn't an elite level manager. He's a very good manager. Look, I love Steve Clarke as well. Steve Clarke was part of one of the best Chelsea teams, in my opinion. The team that I fell in love with, our back line went Steve Clarke at right back, Erling Johnson, Jakob Jelberg, and Terry Phelan. So I love Steve Clarke, but he isn't an elite level manager. But he made Gareth Southgate look like a total clown, I thought. And I don't know if there's any way back from this.
Yeah, with the sort of Calvin Phillips thing, you think playing sort of 2 holding midfielders and then not letting the fullbacks get forward, do you think that was a bit of a sort of regressive move from Southgate?
Yeah, I think 2 holding midfielders, you can make a case for that in certain games. When you can't make a case for that is when there's 20 minutes to go against Scotland at Wembley and you're still persisting with 2 in the middle. What are you doing? Also, Declan Rice, we're constantly talking about what a good player he is and how much money he's worth and how bright his future is, all of which I agree with. But then trust him to do the job on his own. Surely he can marshal that midfield on his own. He doesn't need Calvin Phillips there hurrying and doing very little. Surely he can do that. And if you need somebody else to drop in there, Mason Mount can do that. Mason Mount can help out Declan Rice, but get Phillips off and put Grealish on, and the whole complexion of that England team looks so different. So, but no, I'm worried, and when you look at how average Gareth Southgate has looked, it's a struggle. Like, it's such an English debate that we're having, aren't we? Lampard or Gerrard, Foden or Grealish. Why is it not the responsibility of Gareth Southgate to find out a system that incorporates two of the best players in the England squad? Get them both playing, get them both on the pitch. Look, Scotland had a similar issue. Scotland's two best players are fullbacks, right? They both play the same side at fullback. Steve Clarke worked out a way of incorporating both Kieran Tierney and Andy Robertson. And yet we got Jack Grealish sitting on the bench. It's nonsense. And if Southgate doesn't get this right, I mean, I know that they've already assured him of his job, which, I mean, brings us into a conversation on the EFA and what the EFA are all about. But yeah, I'm feeling very uninspired. My T-shirt, which was sent to me, some charity, right? My T-shirt is misleading.
I'm going to say another questionable decision he made. I thought Rory was bringing Marcus Rashford on and putting him in the number 9 role. When
he's not number 9.
No.
It's ridiculous. What's the point in having Calvert-Lewin in the squad if when you need a number 9, you don't use him?
Yeah.
Mate, I mean, I'm asking you to quit. I know that isn't necessarily how you anticipated that conversation going. I've had to flip it back on you because I could sense that you were going to ask me the question. I've got no answer for you, Dom. I wish I did. I wish I could shed some light on that. But to me, it seems unambitious at best and idiotic at worst. I don't know. Why are you playing Marcus Rashford through the middle? A man who is clearly injured, a man who, despite scoring a lot of goals, hasn't had a particularly good season, and a man who finished the season terribly. Like the performance against Villarreal alone. And so I'm out of ideas with this England team. I really do hope that I am that kind of England fan. Bucket hat, 3 Lions, listening to the John Barnes rap from the New Order song. That's how I go every time England play. But that performance the other day really has knocked the stuffing out of me. And I hope, because you can't opt into passion, can you?
Yeah.
But I really do hope that by the time England kick off against the Czech Republic, I've got that pep in my step back. I hope I'm talking about pinging 6 or 7 past someone and whatever. But at the moment, Southgate has really, really demoralised me.
Yeah, it seems as though he's going to persist with Harry Kane. That's what we're hearing, and that Kane will start, despite looking a little bit off the boil. You know, I think he touched the ball 19 times against Scotland. Do you think he looks like he could do with a bit of a break almost?
I think it's difficult. I think it's really difficult. I think on one level, yes. I think Harry Kane could do with a break. I think Harry Kane needs to maybe just reassess the way that he's playing the game. And there's no reason why Dominic Calvert-Lewin shouldn't be given a chance to lead that line. There's no reason, right? Harry Kane has done nothing to make his place in the side a certainty.
Yeah.
However, the symbolism in dropping Harry Kane or resting him, whatever spin you put on it, a rest is a drop, right? That's the way that it is. Even when it's not, that's how it's perceived. So if we were to drop our captain when we do need goals, like, I think there seems to be a bit of a myth among England fans at the moment that England are through. And I don't think it is that, because if England were to lose 2-0, which isn't inconceivable, is it? If you look at all the third place teams, I think it gives England a real problem. Like, if we finish 4 points but a 2-0 defeat, I think we're in trouble. We potentially go out. So I think that we really do need to go for the jugular. We need to get the enthusiasm back. We need to get the belief back, get the confidence back. And that's why it's difficult to drop Kane, because we need Kane to start firing, I think. And therefore, dropping him, dropping your captain, dropping your best player. Again, I don't know the answer. It should never be this. England should have 6 points now, and then not playing him in the final game is resting. It is resting him. Whereas, because England now need points and England now need to rediscover themselves, you can't rest him because it is a drop-in.
Yeah.
Do you think part of the problem with Kane is sort of those around him not really creating enough for him? I mean, it's hard in the system that Southgate plays, but what are your thoughts on that?
Do you know what, Tom? I think that there's always a players that are popular. People will create excuses for that player. Harry Kane is generally considered to be a very likable, popular figure within the world in which we operate. I like Harry Kane. He's a Tottenham player, and I really like Harry Kane. And I think the phrasing of your question there is quite revealing, because effectively what we're doing is taking all responsibility away from Harry Kane and placing it elsewhere. So Harry Kane is playing terribly. I think that's fair to say. Harry Kane is playing terribly. And we can explore why he's playing terribly. And if you look at the reasons why, people will say tactics, therefore Gareth Southgate. People will say fullbacks not getting forward enough. People will say the lack of Jack Grealish. People could give a dozen reasons as to why Harry Kane is playing badly before they say Harry Kane. And at what point does Harry Kane need to start taking responsibility for his own performances? At what point do we need to stop looking at the reasons why Harry Kane isn't playing well that surround him and start asking, he is the best player in the England team. He's arguably the best striker in world football. He carries an entire club on his shoulders on a weekly basis and turns up. It is now not solely his responsibility. We need to get the best out of him. But I'm not going to pinpoint Raheem Sterling or Gareth Southgate when discussing Harry Kane's form. Harry Kane needs to up and elevate his own performances, irrespective of the form of everyone around him.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very fair point. I mean, Tuesday's game is probably bigger than we all expected, prior to the Scotland game. Are you cautious heading into the game with Czech Republic, given they're open to results and the form of Patrick Schick?
Look, I watched their game against Scotland, and I thought that they were really good. And what they possess is a lot of what you would associate with Souček. Like Souček personified is this Czech team. They're full of tenacity. They're full of aggression. They're full of running. They're full of heart. They're full of desire. In amongst all of that, they've also got an elite level centre forward. Like if you look at Schick's 2 goals against Scotland, everybody will talk about the second one. And of course, the vision, the execution, the bravery to even try it, that is completely accepted by me. But I think what happened, because we all focus on how good the second goal was, nobody acknowledges the first one. That first goal, that header, it is truly brilliant centre forward play. He went up between Grant Hanley and Scott McTominay and diverted the header expertly past Marshall. Hanley and McTominay, right? Two of the good players in the Scotland team. He went up in between the pair of them and ended up being about 6 inches above both. That's a problem for England, because I think that, I know he's played fairly well so far, but I think that Tyrone Mings is dodgy. I don't think he's an international football player. In the way I don't think Calvin Phillips. I don't think Calvin Harris is either. But, I don't think Calvin Phillips is either. I don't think he's an international standard football player. So I think that the Czechs can really give England a problem. I also think that where they're strong, we're weak. That they're full of tenacity, we're subdued. They're full of aggression, and we're wimps. They have a centre forward that can score and bully centre halves. I don't think our centre halves can be bullied, but I think that they're not. I don't think they're good enough without Maguire in there, to be honest. So yeah, I think there's a problem. And like I said, do you boys agree with me? I think that people are being far too convinced that England are already through. Or do you think that I'm just being a little bit morbid here?
No, I actually agree. When you look at the cold hard facts of, we've got a 1, goal difference of +1. I think the Czech Republic are certainly in a more comfortable position than we are, and yet there's still going to be far less expectation on their shoulders to play England and get a result, isn't there? The pressure's all on us, and Croatia again getting a draw the other day. it just leaves that door open for them. The draw against Scotland was obviously the worst result that could have happened for us, because you're going to have two teams now at Hampden Park that are going to be hopefully going for it, rolling their sleeves up and having a go, and both trying to get 3 points. And if we're not careful, and like you say, Rory, and you kind of allude to that cautious, protective style of football, if we go and get caught out by an informed striker and clearly a very, very good side, all of a sudden it doesn't look quite so simple, does it?
No, it's suddenly a real problem as well, because I think Scotland, this Billy Gilmore news has tarnished my opinion.
Yeah.
But I did think that Scotland were going to go through as well. I thought that home advantage at hand, and off the back of what they did in England, off the back of 20,000 Scotland fans taking over the capital, I did think that the momentum, yes sir, I can boogie, was going to continue, and I thought they were going to win. But I do also think a lot of my belief in Scotland getting something against Croatia was reliant upon Billy Gilmore, because he's head and shoulders above basically everyone in that team. He really, he's far better than everyone else in that team. So they've lost their best player. So I feel like that's a bit of a leveler. But I'm concerned about England's progression. That's where I've got to, which is just ridiculous, like absolutely ridiculous. We beat Croatia in the first game. We're one of the best squads going into this tournament, arguably the best first 11 on paper, although I wouldn't agree with that, but you could make a case, certainly. And what are we talking about? I'm talking about now potentially England dropping out in the groups where no one drops out. We're playing 2/3 of the competition, and you only lose about 8 teams or something. Like, basically everyone's going through, aren't they? And I think that England are genuinely in jeopardy. So yeah, I'm concerned. I'm very concerned. But also, England have some magnificent football players at their disposal. Irrespective of poor management, this England team are elite. And as much as I'm worried about the threat that the Czechs pose, I am also very aware of the brilliance that England have at their disposal. And if Gareth Southgate will just be slightly braver than he naturally is. I'm not even talking about going. Look, he's never not going to play 2 holding midfielders, right? He shouldn't, but he's not going to do that. But just play Grealish, man. Just have the minerals to stick Grealish on from the start. And if England do that, we have the potential to run the Czech Republic ragged.
Yeah, I think you're right, Rory. But one topic of conversation I was having over a curry this weekend, I think it was Saturday night after the game. Would you be adverse to seeing Mason Mount, as a Chelsea fan, drop into a midfield 3 and almost spearheading that midfield 3? Because it just feels like with Rice and Phillips, we don't really have anyone who's going to be able to drive the ball forward and pick out the wingers and be that kind of man behind Kane.
Well, here's another thing. And going back to the bravery that I was just talking about, Gareth Southgate, I'm going to flag bravery from Steve Clarke again. Sorry, lads. But Steve Clarke had the cojones to he had the cojones to put in Billy Gilmore into that central midfield, right? That's a really brave decision. The easiest thing to do isn't to put your full trust in a 20-year-old unproven at that level footballer. The easy thing to do is stick with a tried and tested. He took a gamble and it paid off. Sitting on the bench, the player that you were talking about, the player that plays between the lines, the player that will drive England forward, the player you don't need Mason Mount to do that job because we have Jude Bellingham sitting there. If Southgate is brave enough to play Jude Bellingham, put the trust in a child and see how it goes, I think England again will be fine. We don't need to create a player. We don't need to pretend that Calvin Phillips is a international football player. We don't need to pretend that he is, because he isn't. Equally, we don't need to pretend that Mason Mount is a deeper lying midfielder who's going to set the pace and carry the ball in the way that Iniesta used to. We don't need to pretend that he's that, because we have that. We just have it in a very unproven, at least at international level, youthful vessel. But placing trust in that vessel will pay off for England. I truly believe it will. But again, we're going back to bravery. And I think that Gareth Southgate is a coward. And therefore, I expect to see a virtually identical team to the ones that we've seen so far.
I think it's a bit of a throwback to that kind of Rooney 2004, Michael Owen, 1998. Bellingham could be that figure.
Why not? So could, mate, do you know what, Dom? This is the other thing. Jack Grealish, for me, it feels like he is ready to burst onto this scene, burst into this tournament, take this tournament by the scruff of the neck and drag England, drag Southgate to the final. That's the player that Jack Grealish feels like he is to me. He is the man that is going to take Gareth Southgate, put him in a headlock, and demand that he follows him into the trenches and into the final. That's what Jack Grealish is.
Yeah.
If he's given the opportunity, we have so many players that just need to be let off the lead. Jack Grealish, Jude Bellingham, just allow them to express themselves. And I still believe that England can get to the final and win this competition. But it's going to take Gareth Southgate to almost reimagine himself. And he's got about 24 hours to do it.
No pressure. Well, Tom, you're a Villa fan. What did you make of Grealish's kind of, I suppose, small interlude into the game on Friday night?
Yeah, look, he tried to make things happen, didn't he? As soon as he got on the ball, he looked to drive forward. There was a moment in the game where, Sam Matterface, RTV should be, fined for replacing Clive Tilsley with Sam Matterface. But anyway, he drew forward and then looked to make a pass, and then it was to the substitute on the side. But watching him all season, he expects the fullback to be bombing down and be in that position, but there wasn't. And I just feel there was times where he'd drive forward, move players out of position, but players weren't on the same wavelength as him to, move and receive the ball off him when he had sort of 2-3 players around him. But get him started, and I do believe that he'll cause Czech Republic a lot of problems.
Yeah,
I agree. Who do you support, Dom?
I'm a West Brom fan, Rory. So
yeah.
Sam Johnson, I suppose we can claim him. He's the number 2 now, isn't he? As well, obviously with Henderson missing. So he played quite well in the friendly game. Made a great save against them.
Really, he did really well.
He's been great for Albion this year, but that's about as good as it gets. I suppose when you're a West Brom fan, you have to rely on your country to at least get you a bit of football pride, don't you? Whereas Chelsea.
Well, do you know what I thought? A lot of my mates, I'm from Northwest London, but a lot of my mates QPR fans. And when I was in the pub with them the other night, it was very funny because they were saying, when you're a Rangers fan, you're Queen's Park Rangers. When you're a Rangers fan, you rely on tournaments as a sort of distraction and to inspire and to give you those buzzing moments. He's like, this is the same as following this England team, the trudgery of this England team, the lack of inspiration in this England team, the lack of ambition in this England team. He's like, it's just like going to Loftus Road.
Yeah. It's got that vibe, hasn't it? It's certainly we try and see these superstar players who the likes of Chelsea fans, Arsenal fans, Man United fans, Tottenham fans are all lucky enough to kind of watch week in, week out. And of course, it's a bit of a melting pot when we see them play at Wembley, and it does feel like a bit of that Hodgson feel. I was kind of looking back at highlights from 2016, and he was playing Jamie Vardy on the wing, and
mate, you can't get me to one of the most offensive things that I find at the moment, Roy Hodgson obviously retiring or whatever, and good luck to the guy, whatever, but I find it so, I detest that man. Like he ruined. Do you know, I went to Brazil in 2014. I went to Brazil for a month to follow England all around the country. I didn't go to the first game because you had to have, it was in the jungle. It was in a place called Manaus. So I didn't want to go there. But I flew into Sao Paulo for the second game against Uruguay. I was there for a month. 24 hours after I landed, England were out. It was a new low for English football. We didn't even have to bother playing the third game in the group. That's how rubbish we were under Hodgson. And the idiots at the FA gave him another tournament, and we went out to Iceland. Yeah. And again, this is the problem. This brings us back to Southgate and how he got the job and why he got the job and all that. But I think there's a bigger problem with Gareth Southgate, and that is the disgraceful institution it is the FA. Like what have they given Southgate that job for? What have they given Roy Hodgson that job for? What have they given Steve McLaren that job for? It's an endless list of yes men who shake hands with the right people, who make the sponsors feel very welcome, say the right thing, but are actually average at best at their job.
Yeah, I actually forgot about Steve McLaren until you reminded me. That's just that's like a that was.
Yeah, as soon as you see the weather, if you see somebody with an umbrella in the rain, you just immediately think Steve McLaren, don't you? Or if you meet a Dutchman, or if you meet someone Dutch.
Exactly, the Wally with the brolly, infamous, isn't it? Rory, exactly. Will there be some form of positivity? Obviously, we're recording this on the eve of England's final Group D game tomorrow against the Czech Republic. What's your match predictions, and who do you anticipate, should we get through, that will play, or who do you want us to play in the next round?
I want us to finish top of the group. I'm not into the nonsense about finishing second. I don't care. You finish top of the group. You score. Your objective as a football team is to accrue as many points as possible. And if that means you finish top of the group, great. I think England win. This is a problem with being an England fan. Is like, I can't see a world where England don't win. But I'm as close to that world as I have ever been in my life. But no, I think that by the time the game comes around, I just need to listen to New Order a bit. Once I put World in Motion on, I'll have three renditions of New Order and I'll be back. So I'm going to go 2-0 win to England.
2-0 win.
But say we do win, who finish off the group, who would you most like to see us play? I mean,
Hungary, any chance of Hungary?
I mean, Hungary's shown that France, they can be frustrated, and then Portugal and Germany both showing that they've got chinks in their armour. So,
look, I don't care about who we play. I don't think that it's a good attitude to have. I don't think that we should ever play that game. I think we need to bring it on. We're as good as you, and we're better than you. That needs to be the attitude.
Yeah.
If I'm being very finicky, I'd rather avoid France. But after that, I don't really care.
Yeah.
After look, let's avoid France, obviously, and hope that France get unlucky in a game in the knockouts and someone else knocks them out. But avoid France, and then let's play. Let's just that level of fear. There were times when, I don't know, Matthew Upson was England's centre half. You can be scared in that situation because you're not particularly good. Like I've seen some very average England players play for England. Like I've seen Scott Carson in goal and all that. It's happened, and in that exact example, you can be fearful. Yeah. This England team shouldn't be scared of anyone, and I think it's a testament to quite how poorly Gareth Southgate is doing that we're even exploring it. Everyone should be scared of us. Everyone should be looking at our team and going, God, they've got Jadon Sancho and Harry Kane and Raheem Sterling and Jack Grealish and Mason Mount and Declan Rice, and it's a never-ending list of elite level footballers, and we're scared of people. What's going on?
Very well, a very good point, well made, Rory. I was looking at your Ultimate Fan team, I suppose, just on a closing note. Obviously, you've got quite a few scary players on your side as well, fair to say. Cristiano Ronaldo up front.
Only a little bit of Ronaldo, no big deal. Yeah, mate. I mean, you're going to do very well to get beyond me in this. This five-a-side team is about as good as it's going to get. Nobody can deal with Bruno Fernandes and Cristiano Ronaldo. I've probably got, arguably the best midfielder in the world, and then arguably the best centre forward in the world. Anybody who comes up against me at the moment is going to be terrified. Rodri on the wing, Rodon at the back. Oh la la!
Yeah.
You don't want to be playing me. You know how I was saying England shouldn't be scared of anyone. England would be scared of this team. Even 11 versus 5. 11 versus 5. It would be a tough game for England.
And you got Russia in there as well, of course, who are fresh off the back of a win from their last group game as well. Yeah,
I'm very happy with my team here. I think that it's going to take some beating. That.
Yeah.
Bit of an upgrade than having Ethan Ampadu,
who got sent off.
Whoa, slanderous.
I mean, he didn't do very well yesterday, did he? Should we just?
He got sent off. I thought it was a harsh sending off, though.
Yeah.
I thought that as well. But apparently, like UEFA sort of tried to clamping down on those sort of
over the top,
over the ball tackles. Yeah,
yeah.
So,
He shouldn't have done it. He shouldn't have done it, and I think he did it on purpose. I think it's what footballers do. You let them know you're there. That's exactly it, isn't it? Leave a slightly late challenge. But if you're sending people off for that, there's going to be an awful lot of sendings off in every game. So I thought Ethan Ampadu has just been very unlucky because he's the one that's been caught. But I think 15 similar challenges happen on a daily basis.
Yeah, completely right. He'll be a miss for Wales, obviously, as they progressed into the round of 16. Folks, it's been a fantastic podcast. Tom, obviously, thank you for joining us once again. And yourself, Rory. Let's hope that there's a little bit more positivity on the next time we speak. And hopefully everything going to plan on Tuesday evening against the Czech Republic. England will be in the round of 16, which obviously kickstarts later on this week. So, folks, thank you very much for your time, and we'll catch up with you soon.
I've loved it. Thank you for having me, lads. See you soon.